The president said something to the effect of, "I'm the effing president, take me up to the Capitol now." The president reached up towards the front of the vehicle to grab at the steering wheel. Mr. Trump then used his free hand to lunge towards Bobby Engel.
One of the dramatic moments from those hearings. We're now joined by the top staff investigator for the January 6th committee, now that it's completed its work, Timothy Hafey. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Ari.
You weren't doing a lot of interviews during your time on the committee.
I did a lot of interviews. We all did. We kind of collectively did them.
But I mean, you weren't speaking in public.
I was not doing any of these interviews. I was doing interviews.
But those interviews, I guess it's all interviews, right? Well, I consider those more, even more formal because you have the fact that people aren't supposed to lie to you under oath.
Exactly.
Let's start with what we just looked at, the timeline. The DOJ looks late. Some of these subpoenas are hitting witnesses only after they put in a special counsel. Yeah. Why did it take your committee's work to get the Garland DOJ to act, and are you still concerned that they're slow?
I think they were ahead of us on rioters, on what we'll call sort of the blue-collar part of this, people that were storming the Capitol, the seditious conspiracy, the Oath Keepers, the Proud Boys. We were ahead of them, I think, on the white-collar part of this, the election fraud, the broader pattern that our report sketches out that the president and his co-conspirators put forth to disrupt.
Let me get right into you with that. Is that an evidentiary matter? You found more evidence and went up the line? Or is that a bias matter, that the DOJ had people who didn't really want to deal with DOJ officials, government officials, John Eastman, lawyers?
I don't know. That's a good question. Certainly, we were ahead of them when it came to developing some evidence. You're exactly right that they were reaching out to some people after they had already spoken to the committee. And I think because our work was so much under scrutiny and there was a lot of reporting about the people to whom we were speaking, they were eventually trying to catch up with us.
You don't know which it was, you said.
I don't know what their motivation was, whether it was resources, whether it was the desire to avoid politics. I can't speculate.
Is it more important to do the low end or the high people?
Well, they're different, right? The rioters on the ground, there were hundreds of them, and their cases have largely reflected that. Now, who set them in motion? And the broader plan is a fundamentally different inquiry. And the people who are down at the Capitol don't necessarily have any sense about who's orchestrating. So I think they're really on parallel tracks. And I think the department now is vigorously pursuing both.
Those people who were there, who stormed the Capitol, without John Eastman, Rudy Giuliani, Donald Trump, would they ever have gotten there?
Absolutely not. Look, they were the last step in a multi-part plan to disrupt the joint session, right? The mob was launched only after there was an attempt to use the Department of Justice for improper means, to pressure state legislatures, to pressure the vice president. It was only when those prior planks of the plan were unsuccessful that the final step was to launch this mob, incite this mob to disrupt the session.
Right. You're laying out a timeline, and the evidence you laid out with your colleagues really did show people that it was actually worse than it looked when you woke up on the 7th, which is really saying something.
Yeah.
There are many ways to look at this or count it. I'm going to show ours, but you're so close to it, you may have further thoughts. So this is some of the arrows that we put together, as you said, over time. There were things that were perfectly legal. You can file frivolous lawsuits at the top, right? States overturning votes, there's definitely, as you know, an argument on the front end, depending on how you do it, that it's not a crime. As you go down the line into December, you have Congress, Pence, the DOJ interference we just mentioned, the military plot that was stopped, and at the end, the sabotage plan coming out of that. So we counted these up. I'd love for you to just, while we leave this on the screen, walk us through what you see here, what you would add or change.
Yeah, look, that is exactly right. They started to exercise their right, as every campaign has, to challenge results, both process and results in court. Those efforts universally failed. After or as those court cases weren't working out, they started looking for other means. Let's launch the Department of Justice on investigations. Well, they did that and they didn't find anything, so there was an attempt to change the leadership at the department. Now let's go to the state legislators and state secretaries of state, and let's try to get fake elector certificates generated. Again, not very successful. Republican secretaries of state, legislators said no. Let's finally pressure our own vice president, our most loyal vice president. And he, too, said, I don't have the authority. And it is only after those methodical attempts fail that the last straw is January 6th, a speech full of incitement and an angry mob knowing that those folks were armed and agitated, launched down Pennsylvania Avenue toward the Capitol.
It's about to be March. The DOJ doesn't have endless time to do this without landing into an active primary season, presidential debates, et cetera. If no one is charged for any of those other arrows, as we put it, is that justice?
Look, we made clear conclusions in a very public criminal referral because our evidence showed there was evidence of intent to disrupt the joint session. There was conspiratorial conduct. There may have been seditious conspiracy and other serious crimes. Now, the Department of Justice has levers that we didn't have. They have the ability to push through some privilege assertion to get information that we weren't able to get. I think they're being really careful and really thorough. If you're going to bring a case of this magnitude, you want to talk with absolutely everyone, push through every possible privilege.
Do you have the sense they're going to bring any of those cases?
Look, the evidence is there of the violation of federal crimes. And absent something inconsistent, which I don't expect, then I do think there will be indictments. I think there will be indictments in Georgia. I think there'll be indictments in Washington.
You do? You expect further indictments in Georgia?
It seems clear. Again, I'm basing this on the facts that we found. There is strong evidence of a number of people committing both crimes in Georgia and federal crimes. And I take the Attorney General at his word when he says he's going to call it on the merits.
Super interesting hearing that from you. I always like to keep my viewers in the loop here. You are one of the less famous, more informed investigators here. I think that's fair to say, because you weren't on camera, you were doing the work, but you were in this leading the committee's investigation. Let's look at the Trump criminal referral points that you guys raised. Obstruction, conspiracy, false statements, assist in insurrection, according to the committee. I'm curious about this process. It seems like in the beginning, middle of the committee, you weren't going towards referring Trump. The last hearing landed on this subpoena, which had people kind of scratching their heads. And then in that later period, and Liz Cheney lost her seat, you land on the referral. When did it become clear that you were going to make a criminal referral of Trump?
Well, look, I got to be careful that I can't disclose any internal committee deliberations, but the decision about a criminal referral was one that was obvious from the facts that we developed and pretty early in our process.
You feel early that was what the facts supported?
There was evidence of specific intent to disrupt the joint session. The elements of the statute, does someone corruptly obstruct, impede, or influence an official proceeding? So again, corruptly means it has to be specifically intended. And as evidence emerged that this was a multi-part plan, that was not just what happened on January 6th, but all of the events before, the president's strong desire to go to the Capitol, his inaction during the riot, as those things emerged, strong evidence of his intent to obstruct, impede, or influence the joint session. That emerged relatively early.
In your New York Times interview, you touched on the fact that we call these hearings, but you were making factual presentations.
Right.
So many congressional hearings don't work well because they don't do that.
Right.
Is this a model, do you think, that could work? Or was this also special because basically it was a hearing that had a range of views and parties, but it didn't have anyone actively sabotaging it?
Yeah, look, whether it's a model or not, I don't know. But our goal was to start to tell parts of the story along the way, right? Look, the gold standard when I started this was the 9/11 Commission report. A bound volume, really compelling. America is different now than it was 20 years ago, right? People are used to getting information more visually in shorter bursts. And my clients, the members of the committee, saw that and decided, hey, we need to start telling the story in a different way, visually, earlier, in chunks, so that it will have maximum impact.